Petrol versus electric vehicle. What's the overall running costs for 12 months ownership? Let's find out. Welcome back to the channel, folks. JD here again. What I thought I would do today is completely on the fly, so I don't know what the answer is to this yet, but I thought I would take a typical petrol car, look at its running costs, assuming X amount of miles per year, and compare that with an equivalent electric vehicle to find out the total costs for running and leasing those two cars for 12 months and then perhaps over the entire contract of say 3 years or 4 years. You know, people are starting to consider electric vehicles, but often they only look at say the PCP price or the lease price, and they kind of forget about the entire whole package. So that's what I wanted to do today. So what I thought I'd do is I've decided to choose a car, a typical, you know, bog standard car, and I'm going to go for a Vauxhall Corsa. Okay, so I'm on the Lease Loco website. This is a really useful website if you're ever considering leasing a car. It's a bit like Compare the Market or Confused.com. It kind of compares the entire market for leasing vehicles. You can add certain cars to your garage and then it will notify you as and when there are price changes. So it's quite good if you're considering leasing a car. So let's say I want a personal lease and I'm going to go for a Corsa. So let's see what there is. So I'm going to be fair, I'm going to take, let's take the first one available. So that's a Vauxhall Corsa 1.2 turbo SRI. And let's make sure you can see this. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? So let's say we're going to do a 1+35. So what does that mean? It means basically no deposit. So when you lease a vehicle, when you look at headline figures of leasing vehicles, and they'll say something like, you know, lease a brand new car for £200 a month, just check, because there's probably 9 months deposit built in or 6 months deposit. So in that case, that would be a 6+35 or a 9+35. We're going to look at a 1+35. So basically the deposit, effectively the first month's payment, is the same as the rest of the duration of the agreement. So 1+35, and I'm going to go for 8,000 miles a year, and that's coming out, look, at 268.39 a month. Okay, so that's practically no deposit. So your first payment will be 268.39 plus this 276 broker fee, and then 35 equal payments of 268.39. So the nice thing about when you lease a car is you will normally get road fund license paid for as well, because normally the registered keeper of the car is the lease company, not yourself. So you don't get a V5 and you won't have to worry about taxing the car. That will be built into this price. So if I go on to my little spreadsheet, which I've done here, 268.39. So in a year, that is £3,220.68. Road front licence, I'm not going to bother worrying about because it's built into the lease, so that's fine. 8,000 miles a year, and I've taken what, as at today, the average price for petrol in the UK is currently £1.89. which is £8.58 a gallon. If I take that figure and I multiply it by 4.545 to get a UK gallon, it's £8.58 a gallon. Let's assume that on average this car might do 40 mpg. Might be less, might be more. General kind of urban motoring. I'd be surprised if you got an average of more than 40, but you may do. But let's say 40 to the gallon. That gives us a pence per mile of 21.5 pence. So all I've done there, look, is I've taken £8.58, which is the cost today of a UK gallon of fuel, and divided that by 40. So that gives us 21.5 pence per mile. Let's now have a look at an electric Corsa. So we'll go back to the list and let's see if we can find in this list a Corsa electric. Right, what we got? There we go. So the first one that's coming up, look, is a Vauxhall Corsa 100 kilowatt Ultimate 50 kilowatt hour 5-door. So let's have a look at that. And again, we're going to choose 1 plus 35 on 8,000 miles. So that's coming out at 475.66. Okay. So yes, it's a lot more expensive to lease. But when we look at all the running costs, we might find, and I don't know, like I said, I haven't worked this out, we might find that there's not much in it. So 475.66, which is £5,707 per year. Pound to currency. No road fund licence again, and 8,000 miles. Now, what I've done is I've assumed that we were going to charge at home. So Octopus, which is a really good energy company, if you want to get yourself 50 quid by joining, look at my referral code on my description for this video, or any of my channel descriptions, any of my video descriptions, you'll see a link to it. You'll get 50 quid, I'll get 50 quid. Now they do something called Octopus Go, which at the time of writing has an overnight rate for 4 hours, normally at about 7.5 pence a unit. I'm on it currently and I pay 5.5 pence for 5 hours. I'm on something called Octopus Go Faster, but you can't get that anymore. That's certainly at that rate, and I know it's going to go up imminently. But if you join Octopus today, you should get 7.5 pence for 4 hours of charging. So that will give you a 7 kilowatt charger, 28 units of electricity for 4 hours. And on an average of, say, 3 miles per kilowatt hour, that will give us, what, 28 times 3. So that would be good for 84 miles of driving on average, assuming 3 miles per kilowatt hour. And you'd be able to charge for 4 hours at 7.5 pence a unit. So what would that cost us? Well, if we're drawing 28 units, it's simply 28 times 0.075. So it costs us £2.10. So it costs us £2.10 to travel 84 miles. So if we have a look at this lot, I've assumed 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, that's an average. Some electric cars will do much more. My Tesla over the last 12 months has averaged about 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour. Some cars will do 2 miles per kilowatt hour. So it depends how you drive it, very similar to a petrol or diesel car. So I'm assuming 3 miles per unit, you might get more. So at 7.5 pence per unit, we divide that by 3, we get a cost per mile of 2.5 pence. So 2.5 pence per mile versus 21.5 pence per mile on the petrol car. Now, obviously, the more miles you do, the more you're going to save. So we'll have a look at what happens on, say, 8,000 miles, 10,000 miles, etc. So, total running costs in petrol would be £1,716.19. Total running costs on electricity, assume you only ever charge overnight on Octopus Go, would be £200 exactly. Road fund licence we'll get rid of because it's built into the lease on both. So that gives us, let's have a look, a lease price was that. And the lease price on the electric vehicle was that. So I'm going to ignore maintenance. The reason I'm going to ignore maintenance is when I've got quotes for maintenance packs, there's not a lot in it for electric and petrol. Even though they say there's less to do on a petrol car, there's not a lot in it in terms of paying for a service pack. So I'm going to get rid of maintenance. But you should find, certainly if you went, and you shopped around, you should find that the electric vehicle is cheaper to maintain than the equivalent petrol car. So what's the total cost of running in terms of petrol, electricity and lease? So for the petrol, it is going to be this plus this. So it's 4,936 versus 5,900. So yes, it's £1,000 just under. What's the difference? That minus that. So it's £971 a year more expensive to have the electric car. Or, bear with me, we didn't want that to happen. Sorry, I pressed my escape key. If we do that over 12 months, we get £80 a month more. Now that's on 8,000 miles. Let's try 12,000 miles. So if we up the lease price to 12,000, we get 493.37 for the electric car. 493.37. And on the petrol car, let's find that, which was this one, wasn't it? 1 plus 35 on 12,000 miles was 244.18. Is that right? That's bizarre. Did I choose a different car? 228.61. I've got 268.39. Did I choose a different? I think I've chosen a different car, haven't I? That's the one. Yes, Turbo SRI. I don't know what happened then. Right. Is that it? 268.39. Okay. What's going on then? So, 12,000 miles. 289.16. 289.16. Right. Okay. And let's change the mileage to 12,000. So, total running costs for the petrol car, 2,574 versus £300 of electricity on the electric car. So total running costs now, look, there's not much in it. Look at this. So if you do 12,000 miles a year, it's only £14 a month more expensive to have an electric car versus a petrol car. If we were to do even more, so let's say we do 15,000, and let us change this to 15, so that would be 305.98 versus wherever the electric one is, which was here. 1 plus 35, 15,000 miles, 502.07. So, look at that. Interesting. So now we are £40 a month cheaper to lease an electric vehicle versus a petrol vehicle if we were doing 15,000 miles a year and only charging overnight. Now, there obviously becomes a question, if you're doing 15,000 miles a year, can you actually get sufficient charge? So we can charge 84 miles a day, assuming 3 miles per unit and charging for 4 hours only. Now, what is that in a year? So 365 times 84. Oh yeah, we're plenty. So we could actually do 30,000 miles a year if we were to charge every night and do 84 miles every single day of every single day of the year. So food for thought, isn't it? So when you first look at this, you go, blimey, I can lease a petrol car for 15,000 miles a year for £305 a month, and the equivalent electric car is £502 a month, which is almost double. But when you look at the big picture, and remember we haven't even taken into account servicing here, when you take in the whole picture, it's actually on 15,000 miles a year, £40 a month cheaper to go down the electric route versus the petrol route. I hope that was reasonably interesting. As always, if you want to drop me a line about anything car finance related, you can fling me an email here. If you want to get a copy of any of my spreadsheets, we've got the PCP HP calculator, which lets you calculate your own PCP agreements, estimation of settlement figures, voluntary termination, that kind of thing. Or we've got the salary sacrifice spreadsheet, which enables you to work out if it's worth salary sacrificing a proportion of your salary to lease an electric vehicle should your employer offer such a scheme. And we've also now got the app as well, which contains both of these and automatically updates. So it's £10 per spreadsheet or $14.99 for the app, which contains both of these useful tools. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so, and I will see you next time. Thanks very much for watching. Take care.